What if a letter written by a dying 15-year-old boy, sealed away for almost 20 years, held the blueprint for the future of the Catholic Church? What if that letter contained a prophecy so exact, so terrifyingly precise, that it named the very Pope who would one day canonize him, long before the world ever imagined that man wearing the white robe of Peter? And what if, today, inside the Vatican, that letter was finally opened, and history itself shifted in a single heartbeat? Listen carefully, because once you hear this story, you will never look at faith, prophecy, or the destiny of the Church the same way again. The bells of St. Peter's still echoed faintly in her ears, as Antonia Salzano Acutis sat trembling in the quiet antechamber of the Apostolic Palace. Only 2 days had passed since her son, her only son, Carlo, was proclaimed a saint before more than 100,000 souls gathered in St. Peter's Square. And yet, her hands still shook as if the moment had never ended. In her lap rested an envelope, sealed with fragile red wax glowing like fire against her trembling fingers. For nearly 20 years, she had kept it hidden, pressed between the pages of her Bible. Untouched, unread, guarded with her life, she had sworn to Carlo on his hospital bed, as his body grew weaker, but his spirit burned brighter than ever, that she would protect this letter until the day came when it must be delivered. That day was now. The morning sun spilled across marble floors and frescoed ceilings, glimmering against the golden-trimmed doors that concealed the private study of the Holy Father. At precisely 9:15, she heard the footsteps of the Swiss Guard echo like a solemn drumbeat through the corridor. Each tick of the clock grew heavier, as if time itself had been holding its breath since the canonization. She whispered a prayer beneath her breath, fingering the rosary hidden in her purse. Jesus, give me courage. Carlo, help me keep my promise. Her mind flashed back to the square 2 days earlier, the Basilica of St. Peter glowing in the morning light, banners waving, tears streaming down faces, voices rising in prayer. Her son, the boy who loved Nutella, Pokemon, and video games, the boy who quietly built a website cataloging Eucharistic miracles, was now declared a saint of the Catholic Church. The world rejoiced, but only she knew of the secret that still waited to be unveiled. Signora Acutis. A gentle voice pulled her from her thoughts. The papal secretary stood in the doorway, a kind priest with silver hair. The Holy Father is ready to receive you. Her knees weakened as she rose. She clutched the envelope tighter, as if it might vanish into thin air. The great double doors creaked open, and golden light spilled into the corridor. She stepped inside. The papal study radiated centuries of tradition. Shelves of mahogany lined with leather-bound books, maps of Christendom, an antique crucifix hanging above the desk. Yet the atmosphere felt startlingly new, alive, charged, as if heaven itself leaned close. From behind the desk rose the man the world now called Pope Leo XIV, born Robert Francis Prevost, the first American pope in history, a humble Augustinian who had served in Peru for decades, now carrying the mantle of Peter. His hair silver, his eyes deep blue, his presence both tender and commanding. Cara, Signora Antonia, he greeted warmly in Italian, moving toward her with open arms. What joy to receive you today. She bowed slightly, but he raised his hand. Please, sit. The leather chair creaked softly as she lowered herself. The Pope's gaze was steady, kind, but weighted with something more. As if he sensed an unseen drama unfolding, Antonia held the envelope with both hands. Her heartbeat hammered against it. Holy Father, she began, her voice fragile yet resolute, I come not only as a mother, but as a messenger. Before he died, Carlo entrusted me with this. He said it was meant for the Pope who would canonize him. He insisted I keep it sealed until that day came. That day is today. The Pope leaned forward, his eyes narrowing with reverence. He entrusted this to you for me? Yes, she whispered, swallowing hard. He told me the Pope who would canonize him would be born into the age of the Internet, that this Pope would understand the language of the young. He told me This pope would guide the church into a new era. The words hung in the air like incense. The pope interlaced his fingers, listening with a gravity that seemed to weigh the very room. Since his election, he had prayed in silence over the wounds of the church, the growing chasm between youth and tradition, the restlessness of a generation who lived more online than in the pews. More than once he had begged God for a sign, clarity, a voice from heaven. And now, here it was. Antonia extended the envelope. Her hands shook as the Pope received it. The wax seal bore the impression of a small crucifix once belonging to Carlo's grandmother. Nearly 2 decades had passed, yet the seal remained perfectly intact. The young handwriting across the front read, "To the Pope who will canonize Carlo Acutis. Urgent, confidential." In the corner, a date, September 25th, 2006. "Did you ever read it?" the Pope asked softly. Antonia shook her head. "Carlo made me swear never to open it. He said the words were for the Pope alone, and that I must deliver them only on the 2nd day after his canonization." The Pope's eyes glistened. His voice broke into a whisper. "The 2nd day after, and today is exactly that." He touched the envelope with trembling fingers. "The precision is beyond explanation." Antonia straightened her back, her voice growing stronger. "Carlo told me his canonization would only be the beginning. He said the church would enter a new era, where young saints would be the chief evangelizers of the digital world. And he told me this Pope would need these words at this very moment in history." The Pope closed his eyes, breathing deeply. A new era, digital evangelization. The phrases pierced him like arrows of light. He opened his eyes, clear and resolute. "Then let us honor his trust. Shall we open it together?" "Yes, Holy Father," she whispered, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The Pope held the envelope delicately as if it were glass. His fingers shook slightly as he broke the wax seal. The faint snap echoed like a thunderclap, as if history itself had shifted. He slid out 3 folded sheets. Aged, but perfectly preserved. The handwriting was unmistakably that of a teenager. Neat, steady, determined. He laid the first sheet on the desk and began to read silently. After a moment, his breath caught. He looked up at Antonia, his eyes wide. "I think it is right," he said softly, "that I read these words aloud, in your presence. You have been their guardian for so long." Antonia nodded, tears already shimmering. The Pope's voice, steady but hushed with awe, began, "Dear Pope Leo XIII." He froze. His lips trembled. He looked up again, astonishment etched into his face. Antonia's tears spilled freely. "Yes, he spoke your name. In 2006. For a heartbeat, silence crushed the room. The Pope gripped the page tighter as if to anchor himself. A boy of 15, dying in a hospital bed, had not only foreseen his canonization, but the identity of the Pope who would declare it. This was no coincidence. It was something beyond human explanation. The Pope whispered almost to himself, This is providence." Antonia bowed her head, clutching her rosary. "Holy Father, this is the moment Carlo foresaw." The Pope gazed again at the page, his eyes wet. The ink seemed alive, pulsing with divine urgency. He read on, "If you are reading this letter, it means the vision I received has come to pass. I knew I would die young, but I also knew my mission would not end with my death. It would continue through you, and through the church that God loves." The Pope's voice cracked. His hands trembled. For months he had begged God for direction, for a sign, and here it was, written by the hand of a boy who had died almost 20 years earlier. Antonia's tears fell in silence. The ticking of the clock marked time, but time itself felt suspended. The Pope whispered, pressing the paper to his chest, "These words are not just for me. They are for the whole church." The morning sun bathed the papal study in golden light, and in that moment, both of them knew history had turned its page. The Pope steadied himself, eyes burning, breath measured, then read again, slowly, reverently, as if each line were a key opening a locked door. "Do not fear the digital world, Holy Father. The first Christians walked the Roman roads. In our time, the Church must walk the luminous roads of the Internet, not to entertain, but to evangelize, not to chase applause, but to save souls. His voice deepened thunder in a quiet room. Save souls. The words shook him. The Catholic Church, Bride of Christ, Mother of Saints, was being summoned to a battlefield no council of bishops had ever fully faced. Screens, signals, algorithms, yes, algorithms, the new gates of the city where souls came and went without a shepherd. Antonia lifted her tear-bright gaze. He always said it, Holy Father. The tools are neutral. The battle is not. The Pope read on. Call the young. Speak their language without losing the word. They will be saints with smartphones, apostles with laptops, missionaries with cameras. They will hold the rosary in one hand, and the keyboard in the other, and the world will know Christ through them. He exhaled, a tremor just audible, then laid the page down as if it were a relic burning his fingertips. These are not the lines of a child, he murmured. This is a trumpet blast. Silence pulsed. Then something in the room shifted. A stillness with weight. You could almost feel the saints drawing near. Almost hear the Church's ancient heart thundering under marble and gold. Almost the second sheet. The one marked in youthful, insistent script. Practical instructions for digital evangelization. He unfolded it, and destiny unfolded with it. First, establish a papal academy for digital evangelization. Train the young in holiness and in skill, not merely to use devices, but to sanctify them. Missionaries of the keyboard, prophets of the screen, apostles of the lens. A spark lit behind his eyes. This was the plan he had begged for in the night hours, face pressed to the tabernacle. Here, now, it arrived with apostolic clarity. Second, build a global Catholic application, not a vanity network, but a sanctuary. A digital chapel where hearts meet when bodies cannot. A place of prayer, testimony, confession of faith, intercession, mercy. A sanctuary online. A chapel of grace amid the noise. He could already see grandmothers whispering Hail Marys with distant grandchildren, college students sharing psalms between lectures, priests guiding souls who had wandered for years. Not a replacement, a bridge, a door to the sacraments. Third, name and bless the movement, digital saints. Recognize those who evangelize with beauty, truth, and charity online. Give them formation. Give them covering. Give them mission. Fourth, protect the gospel from the algorithms of this age. Seek just partnerships so that the word is not buried. Do not let truth be hidden by a machine. Fifth, create a global digital library of holiness, the wisdom of the saints in voice, in video, in image, in sound, in guided prayer. Let the young touch sanctity with their eyes and ears, and then with their lives. Sixth, institute a day of digital saints, a yearly convocation of prayer, creativity, testimony, online and in person, to light the nations. The Pope lowered the page. The room felt smaller, brighter, heavier, holier, all at once. This is not strategy, he said, voice low, steady, dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. This is mandate. He reached for the small crucifix, Carlo's crucifix, cool silver against warm flesh. He pressed it to his lips. Do not delay, the letter urged from the desk. Do not delay. And then, a final line in the margin, faint but fierce. There will be opposition. The air thinned. Antonia's fingers tightened around her rosary. The Pope's eyes lifted, and for a heartbeat you could see the lion the Church needed. Opposition. From where? From whom? From without and from within. The third sheet waited like a sealed trumpet. He unfolded it, and the tone of heaven turned grave. Holy Father, the storm will rise. Some will call you worldly. Some will say you betray the sacred. But remember, the chalice is not holy until it holds the blood. The road is not sacred until it bears pilgrims. The screen is not holy until it shines with the gospel. You will face 3 shadows. He stopped. 3 shadows. The weight in the room increased. The shadow of tradition without fire. Voices who love the form but fear the flame. They will call the digital mission a spectacle. Bless them. Invite them. Show them that the altar remains and that the roads lead to it. The shadow of innovation without faith. Voices who love the flame but reject the form. They will turn mission into marketing, presence into performance. Correct them. Purify them. Teach them that the Lamb is not content. The shadow within the walls. A secret fear in some hearts inside the Vatican. A faction that would prefer silence to risk, management to mission, optics to obedience. Love them. Pray for them. But do not obey fear, the Pope's jaw set. The bride of Christ has always been purified in conflict. Not because Christ is divided, but because the serpent always coils near the sanctuary. In every age, a Judas purse, a whispering corridor, a closed door with louder voices behind it. And yet, every age, a Pentecost, a Mary, a Peter who weeps, rises, and strengthens the brethren. He read the last paragraph. A heavenly warning, a blazing promise. Be the digital Pope. You will be mocked. You will be resisted. But heaven will confirm you. Watch, the bells will speak. The children will prophesy. The elderly will dream again. The algorithms will stumble. And for 1 hour the world will hear the name above every name, without filter, without shadow, without silence. His hands trembled. For 1 hour, he breathed, without filter. Antonia wiped her cheeks, whispering, "Carlo, you are still guiding us." Then a knock. Quiet, unscheduled. The papal secretary reappeared, eyes careful, voice gentle. "Holy Father." "A courier from the Secretariat of State. He says it's urgent." A slim folder, unmarked. The Pope opened it. Inside, a memorandum drafted by a handful of officials. Anxious, precise, already circulating among certain desks, cautioning restraint, advising delay, suggesting further study, warning of improper enthusiasm, and there, a typed line that chilled the air. Defer all public statements referencing digital saints until a commission has reviewed potential risks to the Church's image. 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 The word thudded against the crucifix. The Pope's eyes flashed, sorrow and resolve braided together. The bride of Christ is not a brand. The papacy is not a focus group. The gospel is not a press release. He set the memo beside the letter of a boy saint. 2 roads side by side. One safe, polished, delayed. The other costly, luminous now. Antonia. His voice softened. "I have feared many things. Today I fear only one, disobeying heaven." She nodded, brave and broken all at once. "Then go where Christ is calling. The Church will suffer, but she will shine." Decision, clean, bright, irrevocable, settled in his bones. We begin today. By noon, the Apostolic Palace was a hive. Cardinal Parolin brief measured. Cardinal Tagle, eyes alight. 2 seasoned exorcists invited quietly. Yes, exorcists. Because when you open a door the Spirit wants, the enemy snarls. A handful of lay experts. 1 data ethicist from Seoul. 1 filmmaker from Lagos. 1 catechist from Chicago with 1 million teens on her channel and no thirst for fame, only souls. And 2 others, faces familiar to Vatican corridors, voices warm but too smooth. "Holy Father, prudence," one counseled, smile untouched by his eyes. "Holy Father, optics," the other murmured, his ring glinting. The secret faction Carlo had foretold did not wear black cloaks. They wore excellent manners, perfect Latin, and a fear of the unpredictable God. The Pope listened, truly listened, then stood. "The Catholic Church is not afraid of roads," he said quietly. "We built universities when fire was feared. We printed Bibles when ink was suspect. We broadcast the Mass when radio was scandal. We will sanctify screens because Christ is Lord of all. A silence, deep, exhilarating, dangerous. Your Holiness, Parolin asked softly, what will you do? First, the answer shocked even him as it left his lips. I will consecrate the digital continent to the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Tonight, the room shifted. You could feel it, like a string pulled through the heavens. The exorcists exchanged a glance and nodded. This was the language the enemy understands. Not PR. Consecration. Evening fell over Rome like violet silk. In the papal chapel, a candlelit hush. The Pope knelt before the tabernacle. The crucifix of Carlo lay on the altar. He began, not to the cameras but to God. Heart of Jesus blazing with mercy. Claim what men have called virtual. There is no square of creation you do not own. Mother of the Church, Immaculate Heart. Crush the serpent that coils in our wires, our feeds, our minds. We give you the digital roads of this century. For the salvation of the young, the return of the lost, the consolation of the old, the strengthening of the Church. Fiat, fiat, fiat. As the final fiat left his lips, a wind moved through the chapel. A real wind where no window was open. The candles flickered once, twice, stood tall. From the square outside, bells, not on the hour, not on the half. Bells, rising, then more, then all, a chorus rolling across Rome like thunder-laced glory. The sacristan stumbled in, eyes wide. Holy Father. The bells, all of them, they've begun to ring. The Pope's eyes brimmed. He said the bells would speak. And at that exact hour, a girl in Manila live-streaming a rosary suddenly found her feed carried to 10 times her normal viewers without any algorithmic reason. An elderly widower in Krakow who had never touched a smartphone felt compelled to kneel beside his grandson's glowing screen and whisper the Divine Mercy. A youth group in Lagos saw their glitching signal clear into crystal. A priest in a locked-down village in Syria watched as a stranger donated enough bandwidth to carry his catechesis to 3 countries at once. 1 hour, without filter, without shadow, without silence, heaven had confirmed the mandate. The Pope laid down his pen. The final words of the letter gleamed wet with ink. Non prevalbunt. The gates of hell shall not prevail. Outside, thunder rolled. But then, silence. Rome fell strangely quiet, as if the city itself had stopped to listen, and in that silence the bells began again. But this time, not just in Rome. Bells rang in Paris, in Manila, in Lagos, in Buenos Aires, in New York, in Moscow, in Beijing, in villages that had no reason, no clock, no system to explain it. Bells, everywhere. One chorus, one bride, one Christ. The Pope staggered to the window, clutching the crucifix. His heart thundered. Antonia, gasping, whispered through tears. Carlo said. The whole world would hear. And at that precise moment, every phone, every screen, every device on Earth flickered white. For 33 seconds, silence, and then a single word appeared across the globe. Come. The invitation of the Lamb, the cry of revelation, the bridegroom's call. The Pope fell to his knees. The world trembled. Heaven had spoken. Nothing would ever be the same.